Okay, here we go. Today we have Anthony Salvatore Luciano Raimondi, aka Anthony Shades, aka Anthony Cigars, aka the Leg Breaker, who was once the enforcer for the Colombo crime family.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us at VladTV today.
It's a pleasure.
Well, this is our first time sitting down, so I want to get into the whole story.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Brooklyn.
Right.
Okay, but before actually growing up in Brooklyn, your family came from Sicily.
Yes.
Okay, and what made them move from Sicily to New York?
Both of my grandfathers, they had cousins that were already over here. And from the story that I got, naturally, was that they were making money over here that you couldn't make over there in Sicily. So both grandfathers took their families and says, we're going to America. And they came to America and they made a lot of money over here. They made more money over here than they would have made in Italy at that time.
Well, from what you said in your book, both your grandfathers were part of the Black Hand.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, me and probably a lot of other people got to know the Black Hand from the movie Godfather 2.
Black Hand.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Yeah, the Black Hand was in Godfather 2. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Well, yeah. The in the Godfather 2, you see a young Vito Corleone,
right?
And as he was coming up in New York, there was a guy named Don Fanucci who was the head of the Black Hand in Hell's Kitchen, and he was basically shaking down all the local Italian businesses.
Yes, I forgot that. Yes, you're right, 100% right.
Right, and actually, Don Fanucci became the victim of Vito Corleone's first assassination.
Yeah.
So that's where I was familiar with the Black Hand. But I actually looked into it, and the Black Hand was quite an organization. Well, this was kind of like the Mafia before the Mafia.
Well, these are the guys, Black Hand still exists to this day. If you go back to the old country, these are the guys you don't mess with. In other words, when I say you don't mess with these guys, you mess with them, they'll kill you with no two ways about it. If they can't get you, they'll kill your family. End of story. There's no questions asked, no nothing. They don't care from the oldest to the youngest. They'll just take you right out. They just don't care. These are the guys you do not mess with. Even the Italian Mafia, as you would call it, or American Mafia, they don't mess with the guys from the Black Hand.
Right, because the Black Hand, from what I understand, in the early, late 1800s, early 1900s,
right,
they basically extorted 90% of the Italians that were working and living in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say extorted, kidnapping, murder, arson, and dynamite was regular in what the Black Hand was doing. In fact, the police actually called the Italian neighborhood in New York the bomb zone because so many bombs were going off from the Black Hand extorting businesses.
I wasn't born back then, but I know from what my grandfathers told me what they used to do. Like one of my grandfathers worked in a coal yard, supposedly. My grandfather, Frank, my mother's father. And I used to see him in the morning when we lived on Baltic Street because he had an 8-family building and there was nothing but family in there. So he would get up. He goes, I'm going to work. He used to go to, he works in the coal yard. And he'd come back from the coal yard looking the same way he did when he left. And I'm like, well, he's in the coal yard. He's supposed to get dirty, this guy. Then I see guys used to come to the house one time and we were in the backyard and a bunch of guys came and they were handing him envelopes. And I'm looking at them. And I told my father, my father says, let it go. He said, don't worry about it because you'll find out. And as I got older, I found out everybody was paying my grandfather. They were giving him the envelopes. The coal yard was his basis of operation out of there. He would meet people, have meetings over there, and then he would conduct his business there. And then when he went back to the house on Baltic Street, because we had 575 Baltic Street was the house. And then they would bring him the envelopes. Everybody would bring him the envelopes every week. There was a trucking company on the block called Brookhaven. The guy who was there, I remember I was about 10. And I remember my grandfather getting into an argument with the guy. His grandfather told me, he says, don't worry about it. It's okay. No problem. During that night, the whole place went on fire. Then again, the insurance paid, and then the guy started coming up with an envelope. We had chock full of nuts. Was the coffee company. They opened up a factory on the block where they would roast the coffee. Every day, my uncles and my grandfather, they would get like 200-300-pound bags. They would give them, plus they would get an envelope. My grandfather had a good racket going.
Well, I guess the Black Hand, when it came to threatening people, they would leave like a piece of paper on someone's door, and they would basically, you mentioned coal. They would basically like cover their hand in coal and leave like their handprint on the paper to let people know the Black Hand has some sort of issue with them, and then that basically scared everyone enough to do whatever they said.
Well, see, my grandfather, Frank Casa, that's my mother's father, his real last name is Costello. Him and Frank Costello were cousins. The reason why he changed the name, because he had cousins named Casa in the old country. Every time they came looking for Frank Costello, they grabbed my grandfather. My grandfather was only 5'6". Uncle Frank was like 6'2", 6'3". How are you grabbing this guy? This guy's small, this guy's big, but they were looking for Frank Costello. So he adopted the name Casa after our cousins in Italy. But still, they still kept coming and bothering my grandfather anyway. They always bothered him. But he was some piece of work, my grandfather. He really was.
Okay, so here you are growing up in this family where everyone is essentially mob related. And I guess your uncle is Lucky Luciano?
All right, Lucky was my grandmother's half-brother. My great-grandfather, Anthony, because Lucky's father was Anthony. His real name was Anthony. That's who I got the name from. I got it from him. He had an affair with a woman. And out of the woman came my grandmother, Nancy, Auntie Mary, Auntie Lucy, and Auntie Cumberlina. Now, my grandfather, Tony Luciano Raimondi, they called him Tony the Barber. He was a cousin to Lucky through blood. Now, he turned around when Lucky's sister, which was my grandmother, Nancy, my grandfather snatched her off the streets in Italy and married her. So now him and Lucky, not only they're cousins, now they're brother-in-laws. And that's how it went down, and that's how it went down the line. But that was my father's father. He had a barbershop on Columbia Street in Brooklyn. And my grandmother and grandfather, they owned a building. It had 2 apartments above it, and there was Trophy's Bakery on the bottom, which was a very famous bakery back then. And my grandfather had the barbershop across the street. They called him Tony the Barber because he knew how to cut hair. But I remember when I was growing up, and I was always going down there, I saw very few people going there for a haircut. I mean, once or twice people walked in there and you never saw them again. And he was small too. My grandfather, he's pictures in my book. That's the one with the tall woman with the frizzy hair. My grandmother, he was only about 5'5". That's all he was. But my both grandfathers were small, but they were deadly. They were deadly. Unbelievable, these 2 guys were. But yet, you never heard them yell. I never heard them yell. They would get them. Okay, they never get mad. They argue you. Okay, don't worry about whatever you say, and they walk away. And then guarantee something was going to happen after that. They never yelled. I never seen them threaten anybody. Nothing.
Well, growing up, in your living room, you would see people like Frank Costello that you mentioned.
Oh, all the time.
Carmine Galante, Vito Genovese, Joe Colombo, Carlo Gambino, Meyer Lansky.
Maya was like an uncle to me.
Bugsy Siegel. These would just be people that are in your living
room.
No,
Bugsy Siegel I did not see. That was way before my time.
Okay.
Bugsy I didn't see. That was way before my time.
But everyone else?
Yeah, Anil Della Croce used to come down because they were all related to my grandfathers. They were all cousins from the old country, all of them, all the way around the board.
Okay, and your own father was in the mob as well.
My father was, but my father wasn't made, and I'll explain. My father never wanted to be made. But my father had a talent when he came home from World War II. And my father's talent was if there was a problem, he'd get rid of you. And he worked for the National Commission. But my father had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted in the city, do anything he wants, anywhere. He'd done work in Connecticut. He went to New Orleans. He worked for Carlos Marcello. They got in touch with the commission that they wanted him to come down and do a special piece of work. Matter of fact, if you read the book, my father did that piece of work up in Connecticut I was telling you about. Because Frankie Piccolo, who was the boss of the Gambino family in Connecticut, went to the commission that this guy had to go. He said, but if he sees any of our guys walk in there, the guy will know what's going on. The guy will take off or whatever. Now, my father walking in there, hey, how you doing? I got to meet somebody else. The guy didn't think twice about it. That was his mistake, because after him and my father exchanged hellos and niceties, my father walked maybe 2-3 feet behind him, just put 3 bullets in the back of his head and walked out of the restaurant. That's in the book. I'm writing a book on my father also after I get done with book 2.
Okay, so your father was basically a hitman for the mob.
Yeah, my father liked to do. And my father, I'm going to make you laugh, my father was an animal lover. My father, I swear to God, I'm not kidding you, my father put a guy in a coma when we had the house on 12th Street. There was a guy walking up the block in the ad. You ever see a Sheltie Collie, the little dogs?
Yeah.
The guy had a wire around the dog's neck. And he's pulling the dog. You heard the dog crying. My father said, listen, he goes, hey, look, give me the dog. I'll buy him off you. The guy turns around, excuse my language, tells my father, fuck you, I'll hang this dog. He picks the dog up. Dog is screaming. I just come running out. All of a sudden, I see my father hit this guy. All he told my father, he goes, get the wire off the dog, get the dog to the vet. I think what, my father put him in a coma. Cops came. This is Frankie. What happened? I'm outside. The guy tried to hit me. He says, Frankie, they're on your property. Don't worry about it. The guy died, I think, about 2 months later. But the cops all knew he tried to attack my father, quote unquote, on my father's own property. My father did not put up with, he did not like harming animals or anything. My father used to cry when Lassie went off. Let me put it that way. I'm not kidding. I'm telling you the truth. They called my father Quiet Frank, or the quiet guy, they used to call him. Then they called him Top. And like I said, if you read the book, you understand how I found out why they called him Top. Unfortunately, I put that guy Joe Fish in the hospital. But they called him Top because what he done was tops. When he went to do something, it was done. There was no question. It was done, boom, home, and everything's all over and done with. My father had a talent that way. Let's put it that way.
Do you know how many people your dad killed?
Rough estimate?
Yeah.
I'd say at least 40 or more.
Wow.
Well, my father was one of the guys who killed Albert Anastasia.
Oh, really?
That's right. It was my father, Joe Gallo, and Carmine Persico. My father was the last guy to put the last 2 bullets in Joe Gallo outside the restaurant. Because when Sonny Pinto made the call, this is what I was told on, everybody told me on their deathbed. You follow what I'm saying? All done on their deathbed. When Sonny Pinto seen Joe Gallo and them walk in there, he made the call. Everybody got who they were coming down. They told my father, short contract. They went in. They didn't shoot him in there. They made sure he ran out. My father was there. My father popped him. My father left. Meanwhile, if you looked at the movie, The Irishman, that was bullshit. And I'm telling you, because I've put out a lot of videos, and in it I says to Martin Scorsese and to Robert De Niro, if you want the truth, here's my fax, here's my email address, here's my phone, get in touch with me. I said, this guy robbed my father's life. He may have known my father, he may have known about my father, but he robbed my father's life because this guy did not do anything like that. And then there was the scene with Jimmy Hoffa with Tony Pro. I did business with Tony Pro for at least 20 years. All types of been me, him, his brother Nunzi. The one scene where you see where Jimmy Hoffa is cursing at Tony Pro, if that would have happened in real life, Tony Pro would have cut his tongue out. There would have been no 2 ways about it. Then the next scene that was a lot of bull was where you see Jimmy Hoffa goes over the table and starts choking Tony Provenzano. Tony would have killed him right there on the spot. They would have killed the Irishman, and Tony would have put somebody else in his place. That was all bull. I'll take a lie detector test to it, and I can tell you what I'm saying, and none of them ever got in touch with me because they don't believe, they didn't check the story out because there was a lot of bullshit with that story.
Well, at 12 years old, you started hanging out at the Diplomat Lounge,
Yeah,
which was a Colombo hangout spot.
Exactly.
And you started, I guess, cleaning up and so forth, and that kind of got you in the door with that family.
Yeah. Well, my cousin Matt, what happened was I was getting into trouble in school. And I was getting into a lot of trouble. So my father, my Uncle Sal, my Uncle Frank, and they got my cousin Mac, they all got together, said, what are we going to do with him? Because there was other guys, I was hanging out with a bunch of other guys that were in a different family, but they were older than me. But they liked me because, if the fight came down, I was 12, 13 years old. I was right in the middle of it. I didn't care. So they put me with my cousin Mac to groom me and watch me. Maya Lansky gave the okay also. Uncle Lucky had already passed away. And I was going down there, and Tom DeBella is my father's godfather. Okay? That's the guy who Michael said made him, was Tom DeBella. He's my father's godfather. When they heard that I was Frankie's son, they said, don't even worry about it. Leave the kid alone. They used to talk in front of me. As soon as I was told, they said, because when they brought me down there, they says, who's this guy? Joe Colombo didn't really know me. He says, who's this? He goes, that's Frankie's son. He goes, who Frank? He says, Quiet Frank. Don't worry about it. They used to talk in front of me. When Tom DeBella seen me there, he went crazy when he seen me there. Forget about it. They used to talk in front of me all the time. I was a kid. They talked in front of me all the time because I was Frankie's son.
Okay, so then at 14, Joe Colombo gave you some sports tickets to deliver,
That's right.
and that's sort of the start of your mob business.
Yeah, so to speak, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then by 16, Joe Colombo actually gave you your own spot in Bay Ridge.
That's right, in the Cadabra Club. I would go to the club, and they would bring me all the money and the receipts for the numbers, the horses, the sports, the Shylock money. I would get all that. They would bring it to me. I would have all the money together, and then I would bring it downtown. After I'd get in the car and drive downtown and bring it downtown to Scappy's Club.
Okay, so at 16, you're making thousands of dollars a day.
Oh, I'm making a lot of money. Yeah.
Okay, but with the money in that life comes violence usually.
Well, it depends on the situation. It depends on what you're doing.
Well, there was a situation where there was a shooting that happened with Salvatore Sally Burns.
That was a cousin. It was a third cousin. There was Sally Burns, Frankie Burns, and Jimmy Burns. There were two of them were brothers. The other one was their cousin. Then they had kids, and they had kids. This was their third cousin, it was called. I got the scar still right here from where he cracked me with the gun. I still got the scar right here. I'll never forget it. He left me with that permanently, but I left him with something too. No head.
Okay, so a shooting happened.
You could put it that way.
Okay. And he ended up getting killed?
Considering he had no head left, I shot him in the head 13 times. Yeah, he had no head.
Okay. So the situation escalated, hit you with a gun, you pulled out, and you killed him.
No. He came into the Cadabra Club, and he was asking who's taking the action here. So I said, I am. Didn't think nothing of it. Pulled out a gun, he pistol whipped me. He put me in the hospital. I drove from 3rd Avenue between 85th and 86th Street in Bay Ridge. I drove all the way downtown to Carroll Street in a car that my cousin Mac had given me. It was a big-ass Electra, 225 Limited. I crashed into the wall of the Diplomat. Everybody came out. They thought I was shot because I was bleeding all over the place. And they took me up to Methodist Hospital where we had the doctors. And they kept me there for about 5-6 days, something like that. I was up there. And then I told them what happened. And then I was home. I was home for a couple of days after that. And then Mac brought me down to the Diplomat. And then we went down to Monty's restaurant and said, Joe Colombo wants to talk to you. And Joe told me, he says he was going to have it taken care of. It's okay, I didn't think nothing about it. And then what happened, Jerry Lang, my cousin Mac, and everybody called me over and said, sit down, I want to talk to you. They told me, if Joe Colombo takes care of this for you, you belong to him. Meaning that whatever he says you got to do, and if he don't want you made, you never get made. If you take care of it, that means you belong over here with us. It's a difference. There's a big difference. Being Joe Colombo's guy, if Joe Colombo owns you in plain English, that means you're his bitch. Let's put it that way, as they would say on the street. But you take care of it, you belong here with us. When it comes your time, you will get straightened out. So I said, all right. So he says, I got to take care. He says, that would be the best way. So I agreed to take care of it. And there was a friend of mine, Sally D, his family, and Joey D. And they had, the uncles had a big bar on Union Street and 3rd Avenue called the Union Street Bar. You went in, there was the bar. Then you had the basement, and then you had a sub-basement. These guys were gun runners. I mean, they had a lot of businesses, but their biggest thing was guns. So Joey D, I go and see him. We were the same age. And he says, what's doing? When I told him, he goes, I heard about what happened. I said, yeah. I said, listen, Joe, I want to get a gun. I'm going to go see this guy, but I want it just to scare him. My honest opinion was I thought I was going to scare him. When they took me downstairs, he says, pick out, and they gave me a 380 Beretta. And I started firing the gun down there, and I was hitting bullseyes left and right. I never fired a gun. I just had a flair for it, I guess you would say. I took after my father. So I got the gun, I got it in the bag, and the Uncle Sal gives it to me. He said, it's a gift, Anthony, and they gave me a box of bullets. So I'm walking from Union Street, the cow sheet with a brown paper bag with this gun in it and a box of bullets. So my cousin Mac is outside. He goes, "You ready to go home?" I said, "Yeah." We get in the car. He goes, "What do you got in the bag?" So I open up the bag. I pull out a gun. He cracks me in. "What are you, fucking nuts?" He says, "You ain't got no permit for this." So I drive. He goes, "What's that for?" So I'm going to go see this Sally Burns because he's in the club now, creating all this havoc. And I'm going to, scare him. My cousin looked at me and he laughed. He said, "You're going to scare him?" I said, "Yeah, it's okay." Friday night comes. I'm down at Monty's and I seen everybody. And I says, "I'm going." I got in the car. I go there. And when I walked in, I remember Dookie was outside, the bartender. He says, "You got to get out of here. This guy's going to kill you. He's creating havoc. He's ripping off everybody," on and on. I said, "Don't worry, Duke." I said, "I'm going to settle. I'm going to talk to him." Now, when you walked into Cadabra Club, here was the door. When you walked in, the bar was on the left side, and on the right side, you had, a lot of space. You had the wall with a ledge. Then it made an L to the back where the bar is. When I turned the bar, I seen Sally was sitting down with his back to me. But he was talking to this girl, Karen Scusa, who was from my neighborhood. She was playing house with him, So when the music went down, I heard her say, "Anthony's behind you." As soon as I heard that, I opened up my coat and I took the gun in my hand. For whatever reason, I took it out. This guy jumps up, opens up his jacket. "I told you I'm going to kill you. Your mother's going to have a closed coffin," blah, 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 all the shit. When he went to put his hand on the gun, I just picked my hand up and I just started pulling the trigger. And I killed him. Walked out of the place, got back in the car, went down to 3rd Avenue. I went to the Diplomat and I says, "Joe, where's everybody?" There was the bartender, Joe Blub. He says, "They're in Monty's." I go down there, walk in. Everybody's looking at me. "Oh, I thought you were going out the back." I says, "Yeah." This is what happened. So I went there. He says, "Well, so," and Jerry Lang says, "Well, what happened? Just tell me." I said, I went in, I told him what happened. He says, "And what'd you do?" I said, "I pulled out the gun and I shot him." So they all looked at me. They said, "You shot?" I said, "Yeah, I shot him." They says, "Well, what happened to him? Is he dead?" I says, "I think so." So they got little Vincent. Joe Colombo told little Vincent, "Go out there and see what's going on." Vincent came back in an hour. He says, and so Joe Colombo told me, "Is the guy dead?" He says, "Dead?" He goes, "The guy got no head." He goes, "His head's completely gone." He says, he blew his head completely off because I had hollow point bullets. They all looked at me and I'm sitting there. Whether or not did I really realize what I'd done? Yeah, I guess I did, but it didn't faze me one way or the other. After that, it was a totally different deal when I was down there after that.
Well, you were 17 years old when that happened?
16.
16. Okay. How did it feel to kill someone at 16 years old?
Honestly, it didn't faze me one way or the other. I got to be honest with you. The only thing I remembered this guy saying, he was going to kill me. My mother was going to have a closed coffin, and I seen the gun, and he was going to pull the gun out of his waistband. And that was it.
That was it. Okay. So eventually you get arrested for the murder.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're still a minor at the time. So you get sentenced to juvenile?
No, what happened, they have a statute. It's the city, state, and feds have a thing. It's called, what the hell was it? I told you, I got it in the book. That you're under 24 years old. I can't think of it now what the hell it's called now. It was a special thing that you can only get 7 years no matter what. No matter what you do. Youth Offenders Act, that was it. Youth Offenders Act. So Youth Offenders Act is whatever the crime is, even murder, they cannot give you more than 7 years because you're a youth offender. Now, the feds have it, the city has it, the state has it. Once you hit 24, and you're still covered up to 24. Once you go over 24, that's it, you go away. So what it was that the lawyer made a deal with the DA. He says, "You know what? A year and a half, possession of an unlicensed firearm and discharging an unlicensed firearm in the city limits." Okay, fine. We got in Jerry Lang's cat and his Lincoln that day. When I was going down to take the plea and I was going to start my time and get it over with. It was me, Mac, Jerry Lang, it was Joe Colombo, Little Vincent, and Scappy. We go along 3rd Avenue. We turn down on Atlantic Avenue to Boring Place to go to the courthouse. As soon as we made the turn, like 4 cars cornered us, pulling us out. It was FBI. Joe Colombo screaming and yelling over there. We don't know what's going on. They're saying, "We got him, we got him, we got him." I'm looking, "What the fuck you got?" They got me. They charged me with the civil rights violation of Salvatore Granello or Sally Burns. Now, here's what it comes down to. The civil rights violation, all the time people thought it's like a white against black or black against, no, don't work that way. The civil rights violation, the feds works this way. I caused his death. So, one, he can't grow old. He can't spend time with his wife. He can't work and support his family. He can't see his kids grow up. Can't see his grandchildren. Can't go on vacation. Nothing. He can't do nothing because I caused his death. That's a 99-year sentence automatically. So what happened? I got convicted like that, 99 years. They shipped me right to Atlanta. This judge hated my guts. They didn't waste no time with me. Usually they give you an area that you're supposed to go to first. You know, they put you in holding. I was in MCC that night. They shipped me out that night to Atlanta. When Abraham Grits came to see me with the consular, that's when he had the papers. He says, if I would join the military, Army, Navy, Marines, yeah, Marines sounds good. He goes, okay, you have to serve 2 years. And here was this phrase they says, in the Southeast Asian Conference. Southeast Asian Conference. 2 years. And what happens? Everything's wiped out. It's expunged. Yeah, sure. Why not? Southeast Asian Conference. How bad could it be? It says conference. Okay. They come with the papers. I sign all the papers. Next day, the MPs come pick me up. Get in the car. We take off. We go down to Camp Lejeune. Oh, Southeast Asian Conference. This is cool. That's where I got my training. That's where I met Captain Bass. That's what I got with Captain Bass. And after all that, then I hear we're going to Vietnam. I says, Vietnam? So I tell him, I says, Captain, I'm supposed to be going to the Southeast Asian Conference. He goes, that's what Vietnam is. I said, that's you gotta be kidding. Holy shit. I says, now what happened with this Captain Bass, for some reason, he hated me. I caught beatings off this guy every day. I was his practice dummy and everything. One day I was up on the roof, on the corrugated roof, and I had to clean it. He gave me a brush and a bucket, cleaned the corrugated roof. And the colonel comes by, calls me down. He's looking for Captain Bass. So I told him where he was. He grabs me by my face, looked at my face. So he asked me who hit me. I said, I fell off the ladder yesterday. This guy knew something was up. But anyway, he went to get Captain Bass, and I'm back on the roof. About maybe 5 minutes later, I hear him go, Raimondi, down, front and center. I turn around, I see Captain Bass with this colonel. I said, oh, shit. And Captain Bass, this guy never smiled. But he looked like he even had a meaner look. I said, I'm dead. I said, this guy must have told him I hit him or whatever. He turns around, he goes, give this man 1 week of bed rest. He goes, he told me he fell off the ladder. He goes, all right. He says, go to the barracks. I went to the barracks. I'm laying there. Maybe about an hour or so goes by. Door opens up. I hear somebody walking. I turn, look. I see Captain Bass. Oh, here we go. I said, there's nobody in here but me. I said, I'm getting a beating today. I get up. He comes in. I salute him. He puts in. He goes, sit down. I want to talk to you. All right, well. He goes, why didn't you tell the colonel what I did to you? I said, what are you talking about? He goes, why didn't you tell the colonel you hit me? I said, Captain, no offense, but you didn't hit me. I fell off the ladder. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. So he goes, why didn't you tell him that I hit you? He said, you could have been out of here. I said, Captain, you never hit me. You may have hit somebody, but it wasn't me. I said, you never laid a hand on me. I fell off the ladder. He looked at me. He shook his head. He says, you got a week bed rest. You want to walk around and do whatever you want. I'm giving you permission to do whatever you want. Stay here. After that, I became his best friend. This guy personally taught me everything. Plain English, he taught me how to kill. Rifle, gun, knife, wire, a paper clip, a pen, anything. I was his prize pupil, this guy. And I went to Vietnam with this guy up until everything. I went to everywhere with this guy. I had no problem with him after that. Because I never opened up my mouth and I told him I could have got him in a lot of trouble. And I could have got out of the service too, for that matter. But I never ratted out on him. I never said 2 words about him. I fell off the ladder.
Well, it was your job to actually, I guess, go behind Cambodian lines and assassinate various, North Vietnamese fighters.
Yeah. My job was to go there and just kill. That's it. Nothing else. But the judge was hoping that I would die. That's why they gave me that deal. But see, there was quite a few other guys who had big sentences like I did that went there to, get, out from doing their time in prison. And the judges would always hope that we would die. But a lot of us fooled them and we came back home.
Okay, how many people did you actually kill while in Vietnam?
Well, let me put it this way. This here, I got from my first 150 kills.
150 people. Well, at least 150 people.
That's the first one. Tell me when you're at. I'll show you the next one.
Okay, well, the next one.
That was 150. My first 150. This one here was on 300. This one here was 300 kills. And there's only a certain group of us that have these here for what we've done. There's only certain guys who have this. But definitely over 300
Okay, so you killed over 300 people.
Way over 300.
Okay. 300 people.
Now, let me explain
something. And this was during wartime.
Yeah. Now, let me explain something. Not all of them did I shoot. A lot of them I blew up. Like I had one area where I blew up, there was what we called, there was a hut. And there was about maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 Vietnam soldiers in there, and I blew it up. I took the Lord's rocket, blew it up, killed them all in there. A lot of them I killed like that, but a lot of them was with my rifle. I was a sniper. I used to get them 2, 3, 4 at a time.
Okay. Was there any level of remorse over anyone you killed?
No. Either you kill me or I kill you. End of story. Plus, the judge was probably praying every day that I got killed, and I didn't.
Were there any civilians, women and children, whatever, in the mix while these bombs were going off or these bullets were flying?
There was always women and children that got killed in Vietnam when bombs were going off. I mean, you bomb an area, they don't stop and say, hey, wait, there's women and children here, let's not bomb it. They do it anyway. But then again, too, what a lot of people don't understand, we were in, Da Nang. Da Nang was supposed to be pretty much peaceful compared to some of them. And we were told, never pick up one of these kids. If these kids come running to you, never pick up the kid. Do not pick them up. Why? They're booby trapping their own kids. Oh, you're full of shit. Well, there was a guy who picked up the kid, and him and the kid went up in one shot. All right? Another time, we were in Dinh Dinh Mao. Dinh Dinh Mao, there was a kid coming towards the soldiers. CO says, shoot him. No, I can't shoot. The CO turned around and shot. When the CO shot him and the kid hit the ground, the kid blew up. So they didn't give a shit about their own kids. They booby trapped their own kids. Now, if it came down to my life with a kid, that kid's going. My life with his mother, she's going. I don't give a shit she's pregnant or not. I'll kill her. She's going to kill me. I'll take her out. And I don't give a damn. I'm not here to die here. I'm here to do what I got to do and go back home.
Well, then in 1975, you came back home.
Yep.
And you got right back into the whole, organized crime racket.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Meyer Lansky was like a mentor to you?
Meyer Lansky used to come to let's put it this way. When my mother gave birth to me in Swedish hospital in 1953, Meyer was there. Uncle Lucky came in. Uncle Lucky used to come in 4 or 5 times a year. I got news for you. So the United States, when they're saying he was deported, they're full of bullshit. He came in 4 or 5 times a year. He came in. Neil was there. Carlo Gambino. They were all there when my mother gave birth to me. All of them were there.
Okay. And Meyer Lansky was really, well, number one, was one of the richest mobsters ever.
Yeah, I would say so, sure.
Yeah, he had his money in, casinos in Cuba and pretty much everywhere. And he, along with Lucky Luciano, who was his partner, kind of helped, I guess, nationalize the Italian mafia.
What do you mean nationalize?
Well, meaning it just went from, some local crews in New York to becoming a nationwide criminal organization.
you had gangsters, if you want to use another term for it, or organized crime figures you had in other states, but they weren't really organized. What he'd done, him and Maya put it together and they made it into an organization. They organized everybody so there's no bloodshed between everybody. And if something was to go down, there had to be a sit down. The commission had to get involved in everything.
Okay. And originally, Meyer Lansky was part of the Jewish mob.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then they kind of integrated with the Italian mob, and he was known as the mob accountant, basically.
Yeah.
And in your book, you said, Lansky taught me so many ways of shaking down a guy, but he also taught me a lot of ways to actually kill a guy because Meyer Lansky was deadly. Don't let anyone fool you. Meyer killed a lot of men in his time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. Meyer taught me a lot of things.
Okay. How many people did Meyer Lansky kill that you know of?
I can't say that I know of personally, you know what I'm saying? But I estimate, I think he killed about 30 men maybe or so. Give or take one or two here or there.
Yeah, and ultimately with all the, organized crime stuff that he was involved in, they never caught him for any of that. He ultimately, I think he just got charged with illegal gambling, but that's it.
Maya used to tell me, and I always said this, he used to tell me, you can rob more money with a briefcase than you can with a gun. He used to say, remember those words. But Maya was smart. Maya was a genius. In my opinion, he was a genius. Seriously. Matter of fact, Maya was with us when we were in Naples when my uncle died in the airport. Maya was there also with us. And we brought my Uncle Lucky we buried him. Well, not buried him, we put him in the tomb there. But then Uncle Frank Costello and Neil Meyer said, screw that. And they took him out and they brought him back to New York. And they buried him in Queens. They paid to have the mausoleum built for him.
Okay, so here you are, you're back in New York, and I guess your cousin Jimmy was one of the top enforcers for the Colombo family. Mm-hmm. So therefore you became an enforcer as well.
Well, Jimmy, I changed his name. I changed his name to Jimmy for reasons with his daughter. His daughter, well, forget about his daughter. His daughter's another piece of work altogether. But his real name was Mac. They would call him Mac.
Okay, so then you become an enforcer for the Colombo crime family.
Yes.
So tell me about some of the early things you did for him.
Well, like I said, I had clubs. I had after-hour clubs. If there was a problem, I went down and I took care of it. In other words, like if a guy came to the club, argument's sake, here, you got two guys, all right? Two guys are in the club and they're just, say, talking, all right? And they get into a little bit of an argument. Now, you're not supposed to put your hands on another guy. Now, if you, in our family, you put your hands on a guy in our family, all right, now I go and I pay you a visit. And I'll put my hands on you, but I'll put you in the friggin' hospital. Now, if you're in our family and you put your hands on the guy, then you're going to see me, and I'll still put you in the hospital. Rules are rules. You don't go against the rules. All right? You touch somebody's daughter in our family, I don't care who you are. Daughter, mother, granddaughter, goddaughter, whatever. You touch somebody in our family, then I pay you a visit. And I don't care who's with you, because whoever's with you, they interfere, they're going the same way. And then if you beat me on money, like if you beat us on money, like we have bookmakers, okay, that were robbing us. Like we had this kid, Ira, he was Sammy Cash's nephew. Big 450-pound monster. I went at it with him, but I just barely beat him because he was 450 pounds, but I put him in the hospital. I almost killed him. Because you don't rob money from us. And then I told Sammy Cash, now you got to pay us back the money. And Meyer Lansky interfered. He said, we want $200,000. Got to have it by tomorrow. Otherwise, he's going to take you out. Meaning me, I was going to bury him. And you break one of the rules, whatever the rule is, you break the rule, I'll pay you a visit.
Okay. So you were a mob enforcer. So you would essentially, you said in the book, the boss told us exactly what was what, and we made the decision on how to carry out the order.
Mm-hmm.
How often was murder the order?
Excuse me?
How often was murder the order that you got?
I never got ordered to murder nobody.
There you go. There you go.
Let me explain something to you.
Mm-hmm.
Every crime has a statute of limitations, 7 years, whatever.
Except for murder.
Exactly. So if you admit to, I'm just hypothetically speaking now to you. If you say, oh yeah, I got ordered to murder, 5 or 6 times, you got to be a fool to say something like that. Because now you're putting light on yourself.
Exactly.
And the problem.
Because ultimately you never stood trial for murder or never got convicted or anything else like that.
No.
Except for the case when you were 16.
With Sally Barnes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. So there's the Lufthansa heist, which was actually depicted in the movie Goodfellas.
That movie was more bull than anything else, please. I love it when they make these movies and there's more garbage than anything else.
Okay. Well, so this whole scene was depicted, with Robert De Niro, being the mastermind of the whole Lufthansa heist. But you were actually involved in the real Lufthansa heist.
All right, listen to me. Jimmy Burke had a guy around him named Marty Krugman. Marty Krugman is the guy who played who Maury was supposed to be. Marty Krugman years ago had a wig company, and then he used to go like this with his hand. Hard to believe I'm bald. And he used to pull his hand, through his hand, pull it, and he used to jump in the pool. His real name was Marty Krugman. He had a numbers business, a sports business, a Shylock business, but he spent more than he made. He used to borrow money from Jimmy Burke. All right, and Jimmy Burke would Shylock him the money and be paying him the interest. So what happened? He got into Jimmy for a lot of heavy money. So he came up with this deal about Lufthansa. He brought it to Jimmy Burke. Jimmy Burke had to bring it to Paulie Vario because he entered to Paulie Vario. Now they says, well, let's bring it to families and see what's going on. They brought it to 1, 2, 3 families. And I was listening. One genius turns around and says, we'll go in there with a helicopter. Put the cable down, have guys there, break into the place, connect it to the safe, pull it out, and take off with the helicopter. And I sat there. I started laughing. So the guy goes, what the fuck you laughing about? He goes, you ain't what? So the old man Tom says, let him talk. I says, you're in an airport. Wait, how you going to get away? You come with a helicopter and do that. They call the jets. They come in from Jersey. They shoot you right out of the sky. How you going to get away with that? Another genius comes up with, we're going to come in with big heavy-duty trucks. We're going to smash through the wall, take the safe and get out. And how are you going to get out of there with all the police and everybody around? You're not. So everybody started going back and forth. So, well, what ideas do you got? So Jimmy Burke, we met with him. And I says, I got one person that I can go to. I said, if he can't put it together, nobody can. So he says, I'll go see Meyer Lansky. I went down to Miami. I called Meyer up and said, I'm coming down for a couple of days. He says, come on. He picked me up at the airport, and I ran the whole thing to him. He says, let's relax a couple of days. I'm going to come up. He says, and then I want to look at it. He goes, show me what's going on. It's all right. I went down, relaxed. I came up first, and then he came up later on that day. So when he came up, we all got together, me, him, my cousin Mac, and Jimmy Burke, got in the car, went to the airport, and we're driving around, and outside, and there was went into the terminal, and then there was the main office where their safe was in. Next to it, there were 2 containers. They were about 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide. They had a check mark in there, black check mark in the orange circle. Maya says, there's something in those containers. I said, Maya, wait till you go. I'm telling you, there's something in those containers. Okay. P.S. We made 3 trips altogether before he put it together. When he put it together, he put a crew together. He put 3 different crews together. One went into the office where the safe was, and each one worked on each one of those containers. Because every time he came in and we went there, those containers were still there. So he said, there's something in there. It's okay. When the heist went off, one crew went in through the safe. They took the cash and some jewelry out of there. The other 2 crews went in and worked on, outside, and they worked on those 2 containers. One container, after we fenced everything, $5 million in jewelry. The other one, $30 million in bearer bonds, all slated to go to Germany. To Germany with the names and the manifest of everybody on it who owned it. So Maya came up and he said, you know what we done? I said, no, what? He goes, the crooks just robbed the crooks. That's what he's talking about. Somebody robbed them. They were sticking to Germany and we robbed them. The crooks robbed the crooks. And I used to bring this stuff back and forth to Florida for him to fence and bring the money and everything up. Well, now, I mean, one thing.
Go
ahead. Some people will tell you, oh, Maya wasn't here. Go check with the FBI. Maya was under surveillance in 1978, and they got surveillance pictures of him coming into New York. But you know what the funny thing about it is? You know what the real funny thing is?
What's that?
You got surveillance pictures of him coming into New York in 1978 in Brooklyn at the airport. All right, so you know something's going on, right? All right, you got all these gangsters or whatever. The heist still went off with no problem. And nobody got caught if Henry Hill didn't open up his mouth. If Jimmy Burke didn't open up his mouth to Henry Hill, nobody would ever got caught. Nobody would ever known about it.
Well, according to news reports,
yeah,
$5.875 million got stolen, with $5 million of it in cash and $875,000 in jewelry, which at the time made it the largest cash robbery committed on U.S. soil.
No, that wasn't the largest. The largest cash robbery was when they opened up those two containers and got $30 million in bearer bonds and $5 million in jewelry. Because everybody ate on that. Everybody, every family that was involved in it, all the families were involved in it. And they all got big money all the way around the board.
Right, because I guess all the families came in, all the bosses, and you guys just spent hours and hours just giving millions of dollars to all the different bosses.
Well, the first $5 million, that was split up right away. Then I took the jewelry down to Florida. Maya got rid of it down there. He took his cut. I brought it back up. Then I had to drive the bearer bonds down there. I went down there with the bearer bonds. I had a Buick Grand National at the time. It's a muscle car. And when I was loading up the car with the money, me and my cousin, I had to rip out my back seat and take out the springs, and I was pounding money in there, and I had to put just the material over it. And then I had money underneath where the trunk was. I had money underneath the ties and everything. And what we used to do, we used to drive during the day. At nighttime, we'd find a motel, park in front of it. I'd be in the car. My cousin would be in the room sleeping 4 hours. He comes out. I go in, sleep. He stays in the car. Because during the day, like I told him, I said, if we get caught with this money, I said, you know what's going to happen. They're going to confiscate it, and then we're dead. They'll kill us. I said, there ain't no two ways about it. But there was no other way to bring the money in. You talk about all that cash that we brought in. When we brought it in, I went down to Honey's lot on Carroll Street, and that's where we started dividing it up. But on that part of the money, the bosses themselves came down. They didn't send their captains down. The bosses came down themselves with the underboss to get their end. Evidently, they didn't want nobody to know how much they got.
Just like in Goodfellas, I guess everyone was told, to keep a low profile, not to make any big purchases.
Yeah.
But some guys went and started, buying a lot of stuff, and they got killed.
Yeah. And Paulie Vario gave the okay for it. He had to give the okay for it because Jimmy Burke was the one that was having the killings done. But the guy Joe Pesci, who played Tommy, he got whacked a couple of years later. He got whacked. What happened with him? He had a lot of money, and he was living in Bensonhurst on, I think it was around 20th Avenue. And he started making things that he was running out of money. Now, he had an uncle, I believe, who was in the Gambino family. And when they said they were going to whack him, the uncle put a stop to it. Can't touch him. My nephew. Okay, fine. A couple of years later, the guy is all acting up. I'm going to tell everybody, I want money. I need another $1 million. You guys got hundreds of millions of dollars. So they set up a deal. All right, look, we're going to bring you $1 million. All right, now I was already in prison at the time. They said, we're going to bring you $1 million. Two guys went to his apartment up in Bensonhurst on 20th Avenue, gave him a valise that was supposedly had $1 million in. When he went to open it up, they whacked him. They shot him in the back of the head. Then they went into the bedroom and they killed Joni, his wife. Meanwhile, and I says, I can't see that. They used silencers on him. This girl didn't know what was going on, but this son of a bitch killed him anyway. But the guy who killed her, he wound up getting killed because he wasn't supposed to kill her.
Okay. So then in 1979, Alley Boy Persico wanted you to be made in the
Correct.
Colombo crime family.
Yes.
But I guess at the time, the books were closed.
The books were the books were closed. Well, they were closed and they weren't. In other words, on the Colombo family, they were closed because one of their cousins, who was a captain, and me and him don't get along, let's put it that way, he made like about 15 guys that year. And the commission said, "What are you doing? You're trying to make a conglomerate over here. What are you trying to do? Build up your family bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than all the rest of us and take over?" So they says, "Can't make nobody. At least 2-3 years." So what he done? He went to see Carmine Galenti. He went to Carmine Galenti and he told Carmine, he says he wanted to make me. He said he wanted Carmine to make me. Now, it was a practice that if they weren't going to make guys in your family that year or whatever, they could take you to another family, have you made, and they shipped you over. So Carmine agreed, but he had to go get the okay from my grandfather because he was my grandfather's cousin. He goes, "I got to go make sure that Antonio says it's okay." He says, "Because this is his grandson." So they went to see my grandfather, and he calls me in. Him and Carmine were talking. My grandfather calls me in. He says, "You know what you're here for?" I says, "Yeah." He's talking to you about. He goes, "All right." He's talking to you about straightening me out. He goes, "Do you want this?" I said, "Yeah, more than anything." He goes, "You sure?" I says, "Papa." I says, "Yeah." I said, "Of course." He goes, "Okay." He told Carmine, he says, "Go ahead, you got my blessings." They straightened me out on Good Friday, 1979, in Casabella's restaurant upstairs. And that was, what's his name had it at the time? Mike Sabella had it. They had a little get-together for me up there. After that, he shipped me over to the Columbos, and Alley Boy had a party for me that night.
Okay, so now you're a made man in the Colombo crime family.
Mm-hmm.
What type of work do you start doing at that point?
Well, I had after-hour clubs going. I had a couple of, what they would call like casinos where guys would go in, play cards. We would cut the pot. I had blackjack in there. I had a crap table. I had a roulette table. I had the after-hour clubs going. I had a couple of legitimate clubs I was involved in also. There was a club we had on East 15th Street in Brooklyn between Avenue L and Locust Avenue. Rich Man, Poor Man Club. I had a piece of that. I had a piece of 2001 Odyssey, which originally was the 802 Club. My friend is the one who I got to get them to contract to film Saturday Night Fever. My friend Philip Esco. I had a piece of that place. I had a piece of Maximus Club with Michael Bellino, who was Alley Boy Persico's bodyguard and chauffeur. And that was on 77th Street, just below 13th Avenue. And then I had a piece of an after-hour club on 5th Avenue and 57th Street. A friend of mine, Jimmy Boyle, had the bar. It was called the Green Isle. And at nighttime, like about 4 in the morning, we used to pull the license in and had after hours. Cops never bothered us because they were getting their envelope every week. So I had a piece of the Desiree Club also.
Okay, now during this time, Carmine Persico is the boss, but he's in and out of prison for years and years. He gets out, goes back in for a few years, gets out for a few months, and goes back in, and so forth. So it's fairly chaotic in the family.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the time that you were made, was there an acting boss?
Oh, yeah. Sure there was.
Who was that?
Tom DeBella was the acting boss.
Aha. Okay. So Thomas DeBella was the acting boss from 73 to 79. He stepped down to become a consigliere.
Right.
Then from 81 to 83, Alley Boy Persico became the acting boss.
And Jerry Lang also, who you called him Jerry Langella, which his real name is Jerry Langella. I don't know how come, what's his name, saying that he knew Jerry so good. Michael Francisi should have corrected you and said the real name is Langella, not Langella. No offense.
My apologies.
No, not an apology, but if the guy's telling you something, the guy should be accurate.
Okay, because when you came in, there was the Second Family War happened from 71 to 75 in the Columbus. Right. So then you came in, there was some peacetime, and then years later, 91, 93, there was another family war that
Correct.
triggered. Were you still with the Colombos during that time?
Yes.
Okay.
I came
What
home
triggered?
I came home from prison in 87. I was with Uncle Buster Striano. We called him Gunga Din. He was in the family. And there was rumblings at that time. Guys were checking out guys, who are you going to be with, what's going on. But there was no war that actually took place yet. Let's put it that way. 1988, I'm with Uncle Buster. And we heard that there's a problem coming. And it's coming real quick. So, everybody be prepared. I'm talking with Uncle Buster, and two guys I know pull up. Hey, Anthony, how you doing? Good. How you been? Oh, you hear what's going on? Yeah, one thing led to another. He says, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to come on a little Vic side, or are you going to be with Junior's side? As well, so I didn't want to, I just looked at these guys. I knew something was up, and me and Uncle Buster were there. I says, you know what? As I really didn't make up my mind yet, I got to look at both ends. I told him. Guys, okay. He says, okay, we'll see you later. Pulled out a gun. He shot me in my side over here. I was the first one to get shot. Uncle Buster got me to the hospital. And that was really the beginning. And then every now and then, a body would show up here, a body would show up over there. But then in the 90s is when it really, like 91, 92, 93 is when it really got started.
Right, because before then, I guess Vic Arena was the boss from 87 to 91.
Mm-hmm.
Before then was Anthony Scarpetti.
Anthony Scarpetti.
Right. So, number one, what were you in prison for before then?
Loan shark and extortion, conspiracy, organized crime, and racketeering.
Okay. How much did you get?
I got a good deal. I got 5. Well, that one I got 8 years altogether because I got a violation from my other parole officer. But I got out. But I had this I'm putting in book 2, I could tell you. There was a kid in there in Danbury. When they put me in Danbury, I was waiting for him to send me back to the prison because Danbury's like a friggin' Boy Scout camp. There were more rats in that place than anything else. I met a guy named Rufo Gonzalez. And he was a Filipino guy, and he had connections with Imelda Marcos and her husband, Ferdinand. And me and him got close in the prison. I said, we were talking. He says, Anthony, I could get you out early. How are you going to get me out early? He goes, trust me, I couldn't do it. He goes, I'll represent you at your parole hearing because I can get you out early. I said, what does it cost me? He says, $10,000. I said, so I'll give you $10,000 and the money will be in the account. They won't parole me and you'll be taken out of the prison. He says, no. He goes, pay me after you get out, after you get out. I gave him all the paperwork, everything I had on the case. He said, in 6 months, we're going to go before the parole board. I went before the parole board. He represented me. He walked in. They said, oh, Mr. Gonzalez, how you doing? They all knew him. They spoke with me. I spoke with them. He schooled me on what to say. They granted me parole. I looked at him. I said, you got to be fucking kidding me. He said, no, you're out. I got out in 87. I got out. I sent $10,000 to Rufo's wife. No problem. This guy got a lot of guys out of there. He got a lot of guys out of the prison. But he had a lot of big political connections.
Well, I guess in the book, you said that the way you actually avoided getting, arrested over the years was because you and your crew actually paid millions of dollars to the mayor at the time, Ed Koch.
That was Koch, yeah. But that was Koch, yeah. That was like when we used to do all the contracts we used to get from him. Oh, yeah, we put him in. We're the ones who put him in office. Because we started the fundraisers. It was called the Chaise Royale. Benny Kirkorada had it. He was a captain in one of the families. And it was me, Dominic Rayone, who was the Deputy Commissioner of Veterans Affairs, Carmen Lasapio, politician from Staten Island. There was Mike DiNicola, who was a captain of corrections officers, Hank Velez, who was another captain of the correction officers, Dominic Barbarino, he was a retired, I think an inspector or something, and he had a private detective agency. And they told me about him. I spoke to my father and my uncles. I said, listen, we get this guy in. I said, we're made. We got the run of the city. We got him in. We got all the unions to go for him. We got him in. He would give us contracts. We did a contract on 210th Street and Morningside Drive. We put the bid in. We were like maybe $4 million higher than anybody else, and we got the bid. Bess Meissen was the bag lady because we used to meet her. I used to meet her at Dominic Rayon's house on Avenue O. He lived on Avenue O. And I used to bring the money there in the past. I used to bring it like a plastic bag or a shopping bag. She used to get it, open up a valise and put it in there and close it. But anytime we would give her a contract, she would say, you can get it, this is what Ed wants. $2 million here, $1 million here, 3% of this, 2% of this. Just give him a flat fee like that. And we always had it with him. Always had it with him. He had his hand out. Just like Carmine Lasapio. I mean, come on, one of the biggest politicians going. He was involved with us. Come on. We all made money. That 12 years was the best 12 years. Even though I was in prison, they were still making money. Because what happened when I went away, then Dominic would be the one doing the talking. He would get in touch with Bess Meissen and say, listen, this is what we got. And I would send the guys to him. Matter of fact, Ralph Scorpo, who he passed away now, he was at the head of SNA Concrete. He used to come up with me with jobs. I used to say, Ralph, I get it for you, no problem. I had a job I got for, I'll tell you right now. You see the West Side Highway here in New York?
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of mine that I got to Sal Beldeo, Tato. He was with the Lucchese family. He was Bobby Feldman's rabbi for Feldman Lumber, which is in Brooklyn. I'm sorry, it's in Greenpoint. He introduced me to a guy, Leo DeRuba, who was the business agent for Olympia and York. They, I think, the biggest or the second biggest construction outfit in the world. They're based in Canada. Leo told me about this job with the West Side Highway. I said, all right, Leo. I said, let me go see what's what. I spoke with Bess Meissen. She turned around and says, Ed wants $2 million. All right. And give him, I think it was 3 or 5% of the job. But after the job is done. But anything you do for like maintenance, that's all theirs. I told Leo, he said, I'll go talk to my people. I didn't hear from him for about 2 days. So one day, about the third day, he calls me and says, I'm coming to your house. I said, all right. He goes, I got to see you. It's okay. Didn't discuss nothing. He comes walking in with a big valise, a big suitcase. I said, you going away? He says, no, what? I said, what are we doing with the suitcase? He goes, open it up. There's $2 million. He says, they want the job. They got the job. Olympia, like that, they got the job. That job was so overpriced and high priced, you have no idea how much money everybody made. And then, once all that money was done, Olympia and York had the maintenance on it. All the money they made on the maintenance went to them. Koch didn't want nothing on that. He was being fair about that.
Well, ultimately, after the third Colombo War, I mean, a lot of people got killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a lot of people went to prison.
Oh yeah,
it was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
It was an absolute mess.
Yep.
Was Ori Spado somehow involved in this situation?
I never met Ori Spado until recently. I met him like over the phone like that. So I never saw Ori Spado down there with us with anything like that. And just to clear something up with you, so I hope, and I don't think that I'm picking on anybody, but I have an issue with a couple of things with you, with Michael Francis and some of your videos. And, okay. First one was when Michael Francis was talking about the Colombo War, like he was talking about it like he was there. Then he says, oh, well, I was in prison. Okay, and then he was talking about his crew. None of his crew, or quote-unquote crew, was on the street. I was. He wasn't. His crew wasn't. I didn't see nobody in his crew on the street, and I didn't hear anything from any of his crew being on the street. And I do take exception with that. The reason why, because a lot of guys did get killed. Okay, so don't be saying something, because I was there. And he used to say that he used to go down to Carroll Street all the time, down to the Diplomat. I was in the Diplomat 7 days a week. I never seen him there. I met him twice. Once when I was coming out of Monty's, I got introduced to him. once when I was going into Monty's, a hello and goodbye, and that was it. Okay? So don't say you were going into Diplomat all the time, which he wasn't. I was there. 7 days a week I was there. That was our hangout. And Jerry Lang was in there 7 days a week. Also. And Alley Boy Persico, and my cousin Mac, and all of us. I do take exception to certain things because you're saying something, maybe you don't think anybody, I was there. Now, I knew his father very well, and his father knew my father, and his father, Sonny, was very close with my cousin TN, Tony Napoli. Matter of fact, my cousin Tony just passed away I think it's just about a year after Sonny did. So there are quite a few things.
Well, how many people died in that war?
Excuse me?
How many people got killed in that war?
I think about 14, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. 14, 15, maybe more. Because guys got killed out of state also.
And you got shot yourself?
I got shot in 88, yeah.
Yeah.
That was just when it was starting to come to a head. Oh, the two guys who shot me, they wound up both getting killed.
Well, at one point, you actually distanced yourself from the Colombo Mafia?
I started staying up in the Bronx. And I was with my Uncle Danny Salenti up there. Because what happened, well, here's basically what happened. I was called down that there was a crew they wanted me to take care of. They operated a whole new crew because everything started changing. All the bosses were in prison, all their fathers, their uncles. It's okay. Let me see the guys. But it turned out it was a drug crew. I said, I want no part of that. I want no part of drugs at all. I always said, if I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, not your whole family. Meaning this, that you start dealing with drugs, you get somebody hooked on drugs, you kill their whole family. Meaning that the heartache that the mother goes through, the father, the wife, the children, I want no part of that. If I'm going to do something to you, I'm going to do it to you directly. I'm not getting your whole family in there. I want no part of drugs whatsoever. No. So with that, I decided, I got in touch with my Uncle Danny. And, well, it really was my grandfather's cousin. And I started going up to the Bronx over there. But I was still belonged to the Colombo family, but I wanted no part of the drugs. Then I seen the way it was going. Everything became drugs. Everything was going on the sideline. Then they're making guys left and right. In my day, when you got made, you had to do a piece of work. Otherwise, you didn't get made. And to get made, now what they said they were going to make you. Now I'm already a made guy. I go with you to make sure you can do the work. Because if you didn't do the work and I had to do it, then I kill you also. Because then you can't be trusted. But if the guy does the work, they come back. The guy's good. He did the work like that. He didn't flinch twice. You're going to get made. They're making guys who never did a piece of work. They're making guys who never proved themselves because of, oh yeah, well, I'm going out with a sister, so I'm bringing these two brothers in. We're going to straighten them out. My sister's going out with this guy. We're going to straighten him. What, are you kidding me? It's a fucking joke. This whole thing became a joke. All these new guys, I'm a dinosaur to these new guys. All right, these new guys don't know me, and I don't care to know them. But everything with them is drugs, and they're making guys left and right all over the place. It's not the way it was.
Yeah, I mean, the book, you said all the old guys either went to prison, or they died, or they went into witness protection.
Right. It's not what it was. Like I said, too, if it would have been like it was years ago in the 70s, the 80s, like that, even in the early 90s, I would have never wrote the book. But I left. I said, before I even wrote the book, I spoke to my friends who were in prison, all of them. Their answer to me was this: don't make us look like animals if you put us in the book. Make your book and get out of here, because these kids are going to put you away for life.
Right, because you came out with the book when the bullet hits the bone.
Exactly. The reason why, because when I got shot over here, if you can see over here, this part of the bullet is still in me over here. I got shot in the chest over here. I got the hole over here, and the bullet came up in here. And that was outside my cousin's house. I got shot. They tried to kill me and my cousin. And that was over the deal with Saturday Night Fever, when they tried to rob it from me.
How many times did you get shot in your life?
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, once in the side here, once here, and once in the leg.
Situation over Saturday Night Fever, the start of the Colombo War, another time?
Excuse me?
You know, you mentioned the situation with the Saturday Night Fever shooting, There was the start of the whole Colombo War, and there was a
Right.
third time as well. What was the third time about?
Third time was I got shot in the leg.
Hmm.
I got shot through the leg from a car. A guy came, thought he was going to make a name for himself, take me down. No, he thought he was going to take me. He thought he was going to take Anthony Cigars down. Guy comes over, which I didn't like. Oh, let's make friends. Let's make friends. I said, you know what? That's okay, but I already knew in my head what I was going to do. So I go reach out my hand like this. He puts his hand in. He shoots me. I stepped on the gas pedal and took off. The bullet went in here, came out here. I had to go to the hospital. I was in the hospital for 5 days because they had to clean it out and pack it out. But once I was able to, like I said, I could show them the holes and everything. But once I got better, and I said, nah, don't worry about it. And then one day this guy got in his car and somebody shot him in the head in his driveway.
Karma.
And they didn't use a silencer either. They used a loud gun. They made everybody know this guy got popped. Things happen.
Things happen. Well, are you officially out of the Colombo Mafia?
I've been out for quite a few years. I've been out. I left. I don't associate with all those guys. Don't associate with any of them anymore.
Well, like you said, the majority of people, and when you look down, the line of all the bosses and the under bosses and everything else like that, most people either got killed, had to do life in prison, or ultimately had to go in witness protection, like you said.
Okay.
What do you think kept you from going that route?
What do you mean?
Well, the fact that you're still alive, you could write a book, you're living your life. What kept you from getting killed or doing life in prison or having to basically testify against everybody?
I never ratted on anybody. I never gave up information on anybody. I never talked about anybody. And anything that's in my book, it doesn't even have anything to do with any of these new guys. None of these new guys or any of these other guys have anything to do with it. They weren't even around. And what am I saying? I'm saying things that happened in the book. There's statute of limitations on everything. The statute of limitations expired. That's it. I never threatened anybody, never did anything like that at all.
Well, with all the things that you did over the years, all the people that you beat up, all the various shootings that happened, all the violence, and so forth, are you ever worried about revenge, repercussions, a person's family, sons, daughters, cousins, best friends, whatever else?
Not really, no. Honestly, no, because this is what we chose to do. When you enter into this life, or as they say, or whatever, you know what to expect. So you know that if, God forbid, if hypothetically speaking, you're into this life, you got a brother, your brother gets killed, okay? There's a reason why he got killed. It's business. That's all it is. It's always business. When you make it personal, then you're going to get killed. Because if you kill a man for a personal reason, now, understand me when I say personal reason, maybe you don't like him, or let's say he screwed you on money, or he's going out with your girlfriend or whatever, you kill him, you're going to get killed. But now, if a guy harms a member of your family, you kill him, they're not going to touch you. See, there is personal and personal. You follow what I'm saying? So somebody harms a niece of yours. You go out and you kill him. They're not going to bother you. Even though it's personal, that's a different story. But if you kill a guy, he's going out with my ex-girlfriend, and you go to kill him, you're in trouble. Or the guy beat you on money, you're in trouble. You kill him. You got to bring it to your guy. You got to bring it to your skipper. You sit down, you straighten it out, or whatever. And then whatever judgment is passed is passed.
Well, you're now 68 years old?
Huh?
You're now 68 years old.
I'll be 68.
You'll be 68. You're 67 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back on your life, when you look at getting shot 3 times, all the prison time that you did, and then all the things that we can't really talk about because of statute of limitations and so forth, do you feel any level of regret if you could go back to your 15-year-old self and taken a different route? Would you have taken it?
No.
Or are you happy with the life that you lived?
No, I don't think I would have taken it. I don't think I would have taken it, no. This is the way I was brought up. This is the way I was raised. I didn't know any other life.
Yeah.
This is what was around me 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Is there anything you regret at all about the life?
The only thing I regret about my life is that, truthfully, is that I couldn't save my mother and father because they all died from diseases, from cancer and heart and everything. It's the only thing I really, that and I couldn't save my animals. And I'll be perfect. I'm an animal lover, I'll be honest with you. That's the only thing, that's the only regrets I have. That's the only regrets I have. Anything I ever done in my life, I done to the same people who were in the same life that I was in, doing the same thing that I was doing. I never messed with legitimate people. Never did. Because legitimate people don't understand something. You want to be with me, every week you better have that envelope for me. I don't give a damn what, you got to have that envelope for me every week. Because legitimate people, all they know is they like the idea of, oh, this guy is this and this guy's that, and I'm with him. But they don't realize you still got to come up with it every week. There's no excuse over here.
Yeah.
There's no excuse whatsoever. Now, then you got to clarify like I do on my tapes. I wrote my book. You're right. I never ratted on anybody, and you can look through all the records you want. I never signed a proffer like Michael did. Excuse me, but he did. And there's proof on that. I never went into court and testified on anybody. I never gave information on anybody. Nobody ever went to prison on me. Nobody ever got into any trouble from me. I got into trouble twice because why? What people said about me. I wasn't even on the tapes. I got 2 convictions against me, 2 different cases, because of what people said about me. Not even what I would, they don't even have me on tape talking. And I kept my mouth shut all the time. But you know what? This is the end of my life, so to speak, because who knows how many years I got. Before I go, I'm telling my story now, because everybody's telling these stories that are all out of BS. They know about this. They don't know half of what they're talking about. They don't. Now, is it going to buy me a one-way ticket to heaven? I doubt it very much. Let's put it that way. But I'm telling my story now.
Well, over the years, I've interviewed a lot of ex-Mafia guys. From Anthony Arlotta to Bobby Luisi to Larry Mazza, to Anthony Russo. The list goes on.
Which Anthony Russo you talking about? Anthony Russo from Brooklyn?
Yeah.
The one that Teddy Persico made, and then when he got pinched, he gave him up?
Part of the Gambinos, right?
Oh, no. This guy was with the Colombos.
No.
His name was Anthony Russo, they called him.
A different guy. Well, I mentioned all the people I just mentioned because I've interviewed them. And at one point in their story, they talk about how they cooperated with the feds.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave various reasons. One reason was that their family was threatened. Another reason was their partner they found out their partner was cooperating. There's always, and I've asked them flat out, do you consider yourselves rats? Most people say no, there's various reasons and so forth.
Right.
But ultimately, most people I interview have cooperated, which is why they could say, when I could ask them stories, about murders and so forth, they could actually lay out, the stories, people
right.
like John A. Light and stuff like that. So when you look at people from your point of view that were mob affiliates, and some of these people, I don't know if you know them or you know of them or whatever else, but when you look at people who ultimately were in the mafia, who were made men and cooperated, what are your thoughts about them?
I look at it this way. One, they didn't rat on me. I look at it that way, all guys that I knew. But like I said, there had to be a reason. I'll give you, for instance, Carmine Persico was hiding out. I was in prison at the time, and he was hiding out in a cousin's house, and the FBI caught him there. Now, Michael Bellino, who was Ali Boy Persico's bodyguard and chauffeur and everything, I think Michael was still in prison. He wasn't out yet. A couple of guys went to Michael Bellino's house, told his wife and his daughters, your father's a rat, this, that, and whatever. He's no good. And they went on and on and on. We're going to get even. We're going to get even. You come to court. So Michael Bellino's wife went to court. They threatened her and they threatened the daughters to harm them. So they went to court. The trial was going on, and there was what do you call it? You know, they took a break in the trial, and they were going to have the witness and the informant who gave up Carmine Persico. So when it comes back on, who comes walking out? This guy, Freddie DeChristopher, who was a cousin to Carmine to a marriage. Carmine was staying at his house. He gave him up for $50,000 reward.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guy, Freddie DeChristopher, his wife, who was another her brother's a big wise guy, who was a cousin to Carmine and Allie Boy Persico, she fainted. Michael Bellino's Michael Bellino's wife and daughters walked out. They sent back an apology to Michael Bellino. And from what I understand, Carmine told Michael, anything you want, we'll give you, we'll take care of it. Michael says, I don't want nothing to do with any of you anymore. When he came out of prison, he went to Florida.
Yeah.
They went and threatened his wife. A couple of other times they went and they threatened guys, say like a guy's got his wife and he's got his gumada, okay. So he dumps her and he picks up another one, a gumada. So this one here's starting in, guys were going there and beating up the girl. Come on, be freaking serious here. We didn't do that in my day. In my day, you're not supposed to do something like that. But they're doing that. I got no use for them. I got no use for them whatsoever. So there are reasons why guys do turn around and give up information. Let me tell you something. Another bullshit story they had was, I'm going to make you laugh with this one. If you wore a beard or a mustache, that meant you was a rat. Well, you know what? No, listen to me. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of names. Joe Valachi, all right? Jimmy Fratiano the Weasel. Now, just follow me what I'm saying. Sally Misciata, Anthony Russo from the Colombos, okay? There's so many guys. Oh, Frankie Lino, Joe Messina, the head of the Bonanno family, Joe Messina's brother-in-law. These are just a couple that I'm mentioning. Every one of them became an informant. But guess what they all had in common? Not one of them ever had facial hair.
Funny.
So how you telling me a guy with a beard or a mustache, he's going to be a rat, when all the informants that you ever see throughout history, they're all clean-shaven. They never had facial hair.
Well, Anthony, I appreciate you sharing your story. Quite a life. Quite a life of ups and downs.
Oh, there's a lot more to it, believe me when I tell you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's the whole Vatican story, which we didn't get into, which is going to be part of a documentary that you're working on.
Yeah.
You know, as well as, you know, the whole Lufthansa heist and, you know, really association.
There's more to delve into with the Lufthansa heist about who got rid of the jewelry and where we got rid of it and how the bonds were changed over and everything was washed. That's another story.
Yeah, I bet. Well, we'll have links to your book, When the Bullet Hits the Bone,
yes,
below if you want to check it out. It's quite a read. You know, and I appreciate you sitting down and.
My pleasure.
You know,
I got none.
Yeah, man.
Anytime you want to interview me again, there's no problem with that. I got quite a few things.
Absolutely. Well,
I think
Anthony,
Michael, I don't mean to interrupt, but not to hop up. I think Michael might be mad at you because of what I'm saying, because I corrected him on a couple of things.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, whoever sits down in this chair has the right to say whatever they want. And, you know.
Oh, there's quite a few other things I could tell you about, but, you know, we could let that go for another time if you ever want to interview me again.
Sure.
But I have other stories.
Michael's always welcome to sit down and respond to you as well.
Yeah, he can sit down with me together. I'll sit down with him together. I don't care.
Sure. I mean, at one point we interviewed Ori Spado, who said a few things about Michael, and then Michael responded and so forth. So,
yeah,
you know, at the end of the day, everyone has their own point of view. Mm-hmm. Every situation has multiple angles, and you know, people are allowed to say their piece.
Yeah, well, I got things in book 2 that if you ever interview me again, I can tell you about it because there's no problem with that. A lot of other things.
When is book 2 coming out?
Hopefully, it should be out between March and June.
Okay.
And it picks up from where book 1 left off. But in book 2, I go back to the Vatican. I give you the rest of the story on the Vatican and with the assassination of the Pope. Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to it. There's a
lot more to it.
Anthony, appreciate you coming in, man.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
Thank you.
Peace.